Welcome to a world of fine wine economics, where value, rarity, and collectibility define a market as rich as the wines themselves. Rarity, with limited production and unique vintages, drives value, while the producer's reputation and global trends shape the landscape. Investors and collectors are drawn to fine wine as a real asset, but it's also about passion and tradition. Auctions and technology provide platforms for trading and authentication, reflecting a balance between investment and artistry. Whether a collector, investor, or wine lover, understanding this world offers insights into what makes a wine valuable. It's a journey through vineyards and markets, guided by expertise and appreciation. So raise your glass to the economics of fine wine, where every bottle tells a story of value and rarity. From Umbria, and your wife's family produces that wine. It sounds very exclusive. Is it therefore very expensive?
Not really, not at all. Well, first of all, she's not my wife yet. It's only been 12 years. Give me a little bit of time here. I don't, want to commit. So we have a child, and it's been 12 years. So I don't really want to commit so early. Because don't stress me about this. But the wines in Umbria are underappreciated because Umbria has historically undersold itself. And what we're seeing now is a lot of influx of tourism into regions like Umbria and Marche. Even less people know about Le Marche. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but a lot of people don't. And therefore, you're going to find some fantastic wines at some extremely good prices with respect to, again, Tuscany. So your Montepulciano, your Brunellos, and all that. You'll probably, look, I can make an example. There is a region, a winemaking region called Monte, which is, I would say, probably all of 10 miles away from Montalcino. It's just on a different side of the hills, okay? One is the denomination Montecucco. One is the denomination Brunello di Montalcino. You can find wines that are, I would say, just as good as the very high-end Brunellos for a third of the price, just because they're 10 miles away. So imagine what a region away does. And these are fantastic wines. The price point on my wife's family's wines isn't that high at all. I mean, we're not talking about luxury wines by any stretch of the imagination. We're talking maybe about a wine that would cost, over here, if you bought it from the cellar, it would probably cost you, I don't know, 20, 25 euros maybe. Send it to the States, pay your import taxes or whatever. I'm not sure how much that is. This is probably a $45, $50 bottle of wine. So it's nothing, it's nothing incredible. That's after all the taxes. So you really do find some really good price points on wines from regions that you don't really know of, and a lot of them will cost even less. Because I was talking about the top-notch wine of that winery. You can go down to one of the basic whites, which are still excellent, and that's a €7 bottle, which will cost you $15, $20. And as Jin was saying, that's enough for a fine wine. It really is.
Jin, what factors do you consider when valuing a fine wine?
Well, I mean, I don't really put a value in the fine wine. The market does that for us. And the market's driven by, of course, there's going to be a group of people who are the movers and who are the trendsetters. But usually over time, you could also see where the market's going. And from what I've noticed in the past, let's say 5 to 7 years, the way I actually been paying attention to where it's headed, everything comes down to supply and demand. And the type of the wines that have exploded in the past few years, Burgundy and Champagne, especially the grower Champagne, there's just not enough supply there. So if, let's say, they're making 1,000 bottles, we're talking about 1,000 bottles available worldwide. And these were not supposed to be luxury wines either. They were produced by farmers who ended up bottling the wines themselves. And over the past 20 years, they went from no one knowing who they are into the entire world wants them. So when the entire world started to demand their wines, their wine prices went from, let's say, $50, just like what Nikki was saying, $50 when it goes through all the import taxes and things like that. But probably their release price was about $20 in that country. But when the world started to demand them, and they demand them, every single person wanted them. Now their price is close to 4 figures. And a lot of that money gets passed down to the producers, but majority of that money really goes down to the middleman. And that has been the trend of the past 5 years or so.
Which is tough. I mean, it's always tough when the middleman collects more than the source.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with the Burgundy prices breaking, right? I think at some point, I hear a lot of stories from the old timers. Oh, I used to pay this for this money. I ate this bottle, and there's a story about Domaine della Romani Conti, DRC. I think that everyone pretty much knows what kind of wine they are, how high of the quality they are, and I shared the story with my staff that I used to be able to, about 20 plus years ago, if I really wanted to taste this wine, I could pull my resources and buy these wines for about $500-$600 per bottle. Now, every single bottle, one, you can't buy them because it's really difficult to buy them. And if you do want to buy them, it will throw you back $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per bottle. And one of the stories that I've been told, it's working the floor and things of that nature, is that one day, I think it's back in 1980s or maybe even 90s, probably 80s, that Aubert de Villaine, who's the owner of the DRC, visited New York after doing his market run and noticed his wine going for about, I don't know, like multiple thousands of dollars at a restaurant. And then he was shocked to see that price. And then he went back and started to raise his price on his end. So majority of the money that comes through someone drinking this beautiful bottle of DRC, now it goes back to the producers. But only Aubert de Villaine can have that pull. A lot of the times, they're not really represented properly. So still to this day, there are many, many, many farmers and winemakers who don't get all the money, and a lot of the middlemen do get it. But it's starting to change more and more.
Since you're very much in the business, how able is one? Can one spot the trends like that? Sort of these external market-driven trends. Can one predict like what will be happening over the next 3 to 5 years or 10 years, and therefore position their collection accordingly?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, that's their business, is they trying to predict the trend. And I won't mention names because I don't know exactly who's watching what, but there are a group of people who always try to corner the market. If there is one really hot producer, let's just take Germany, for example. There's one really hot producers. Right now, you could go to Germany and you buy this bottle for $15. And I actually bought some bottles for $15 when I was in Germany. But there's a bunch of people who are buying up as much as they can right now. And that in return really does raise price and removes a lot of supply from the entire inventory. So once again, they're trying to create demand, and they're trying to also take away the supply that is available to the market. But little do you know, there's a lot of supply that's tied up in someone's warehouse somewhere out there in Europe. So there's a lot of movements like that happening, not only in German wines, but also in French wines, because they're always looking for what's next. What's the next champagne that's going to break? What's the next Burgundy that's going to break? And you see that time after time again. And some of them comes true and some of them don't.
Yeah, it can be a risky proposition. Yep. I mean, it can be like the Hunt brothers trying to corner the silver market. And if you don't do it successfully, it's very painful. Let's go to our final segment, and then we'll wrap it up.